How it works, to me, it's very difficult. You've got AT&T, and then you've got the net. And you're dealing with states and communities and counties that are totally different. Now, we're a rural state. To me, that would pose a lot more problems, because when Senator Markey was talking about one thing is on the first floor and something else on the second floor, well, these are all scattered. We don't have different floors with different capabilities to coordinate. So I'd kind of like to talk to both of you about the unique problems you have that I see as someone who's not really well versed in this area, but I do understand my state of Oklahoma is a rural state, and it'd be much more difficult, I would think, to coordinate these things. What are your thoughts about it, either one of you?
Senator, I would say that at the very core of what states are looking for, whether it's a state that has dense urban populations or spread out rural populations, they're looking for broadband coverage that's fast, reliable, and gives priority access to first responders. So at the very core of what we need to provide for first responders, that's it. And so when we have discussions in Oklahoma versus Manhattan, we hear virtually the same thing, which is we need coverage where the first responders operate, which is everywhere. Yeah. So that's the very foundation.
What if there is no coverage there?
So then the backup to that coverage would be deployables, which a deployable is, I had showed the picture earlier, I won't show it again, but it's essentially a large truck, it's a mobile cell tower that connects to a satellite. So in a rural area where there is no coverage whatsoever, or where a natural disaster has knocked down a tower, for example, we can drive one of these trucks into that rural area, pop up an antenna, and create a cell phone connection as well as a broadband connection for first responders where they would have priority access to it. The doctor was saying earlier a situation, he was giving an example of where broadband towers had been knocked down. That's a perfect example of where we can bring this basically a mobile tower. And the fires.
How many of these do you have?
Today we have a fleet of over 700 national disaster recovery vehicles. That is not just what I described. That's a number of different vehicles. We are building 72 of these just for the FirstNet program that'll be deployed all across the United States to give us a defined response time, which FirstNet is defined in the contract, to ensure we can be on station very quickly.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Mr. Poth?
Yeah. Rural coverage has been a problem forever even in land mobile radio, the walkie-talkies, rural coverage, you know, it is always very challenging, as you point out. Congress, in particular with FirstNet, had the foresight to also make sure that rural coverage was a critical component of the FirstNet solution going forward, and that's one of the things that we are very focused on to try to improve. It is going to take, you know, years to get to a point, you know, and increase the rural coverage. One of the things that we have in our agreement with AT&T is rural coverage on every phase of their build-out is going to be addressed and start chipping away. But rural coverage, whether it's land mobile radios, broadband, any types of things, as you know better than anyone, Senator, is very, very challenging. And we hope that this is a first step in trying to solve some of that.
Yeah, I see. Well, you know, Mr. Poth, being the FirstNet is an independent authority within the Department of Commerce. What other, when you first embarked on this, did you look for others as examples, that things that have worked as independent authorities, or are you forging new areas? Or
I think we're forging new areas of how we work effectively with the private sector. The model that we pursued in trying to solve, in this example, rural coverage, we went out to the private sector and said, what is the best approach to solve some of those problems? As an independent authority within the government, we've been very effective and looked at other models as to what's working, but the Department of Commerce, NTIA, the FCC, all those other components that are critical to this approach have been very supportive and has worked very effectively for us. And that's why I think we're glad today to be reporting we are, in fact, 3 months ahead of schedule from what the original intent was. We do have a contract awarded. We actually have a contract awarded that is providing the needs to public safety, and it's financially sustainable. This independent authority is not going to come back to Congress and ask for additional funds, ever. And I think that's a significant you know, plan that Congress had envisioned when they stood this authority up.
Yeah, we don't very often around here have anyone ahead of schedule. I mean, generally it's we ought to move you over into DOD. I think we can solve some problems over there. But, well, I'm looking forward to it. And I think each state represented around this table here probably believes that it has more natural disasters and other types of disasters. In our state of Oklahoma, as you well know, we have the commonplace tornadoes, the horrible fire that took place just 2 months ago. And so it's such a diverse array of problems that are out there that you guys have to figure out some way to deal with. And I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad you're ahead of schedule. I'll be looking forward to monitoring your success.